Hey, thanks for tuning in. I'm Prudy. Welcome to my podcast. In this episode, I want to talk about the corporate-caste nexus, how capitalism and Brahminism work together to exploit India. They always say that India is the world's largest democracy, but if you are going to be honest, it's just a corporate-run caste oligarchy. The wealthiest elites, the industrialists, the policymakers, the landowners, they aren't just capitalists, they are castes. And the system they defend, it doesn't just protect profits, it protects caste power. You see, in India, capitalism isn't just about money, it's about caste. While billionaires rake in profits, the working class, overwhelmingly Dalit, Bahujan, and Adivasis, they remain trapped in low wage, high risk labor. The state, the media, the judiciary, and all corporations, they all function as one massive caste cartel, ensuring wealth stays in the hands of oppressor castes, while the rest are fed nationalism and religion as distractions. And they tell you that India is a meritocracy, but when 90% of the richest people come from just a handful of castes, you have to ask whose merit? The billionaires, mostly Banyas, Brahmins, Reddis, and Kammas, the policymakers dominated by the same castes, the CEOs, bank owners, and real estate tycoons, and again oppressor castes. But the sanitation workers, the construction laborers, the landless farmers, who are these? These are all Dalits, Bahujans, and Adivasis. And then caste ensures that the wealth pipeline keeps flowing upward, while the labor exploitation pipeline keeps flowing downward. If you think capitalism alone is a problem, think again. This is not just about capitalism. It's not just capitalism. This is Brahminical capitalism, a system where caste and class function in perfect harmony, ensuring the same families remain in power generation of after generation, while the exploited remain locked out, disenfranchised, and disposable. The ruling class knows exactly what it's doing. The Banyas control the economy. The Brahmins control the ideology, crafting the narratives of merit, tradition, and nationalism. The Reddis and Kammas control the land, the resources, and the political machinery. And Dalits, Bahujans, and Adivasis, they are given slogans, crumbs, and police batons when they dare to resist. And let's talk about land, wealth, and caste control. Land is not just property, land is power, land is history, land is survival, and India land is also caste. Who owns the land? Oppressor caste, landlords, businessmen, and real estate tycoons. The ones whose families have held acres for centuries, passing them down like an inheritance, like a birthright. They sit on vast estates, collect rent, and dictate terms to those who toil on their fields. They own not just land, but the future of those who don't own land. And who gets their land stolen? Dalits and Adivasis, through legal loopholes, fraudulent transfers, and outright force. Adivasi lands are swallowed up by mining companies, steel plants, and industrial corridors. Dalit bastis are bulldozed overnight for urban beautification. And when they resist, they are criminalized, branded as encroachers on land that was never theirs to begin with. Because under this system, nothing was ever meant to be theirs. And who controls agriculture? Jats, Reddis, Kammas, Patidars, the landed caste elites. They own the farms, they dictate the prices, they enjoy the benefits of subsidies. But who works the fields? Dalits, Adivasis, and Bahujans. They plow, sow, and harvest, only to be left landless, underpaid, and forever indebted to the very landlords who exploit them. The Green Revolution wasn't a revolution for them, it was a caste consolidation project, ensuring that the wealth and power remained concentrated in the same hands while the working caste remained at the mercy of landlords and the money lenders. Who benefited from the development projects? Big businesses. Who gets displayed? Marginalized caste communities. SEZs, highways, airports, luxury townships, all built on stolen land. And when people fight back, bulldozers, police lattes, and empty promises of rehabilitation follow. Villages are erased from maps, histories are wiped out, families are forced into slums, stripped of both land and dignity. Every major land reform, industrial project, and urban expansion is a caste project. It is designed to concentrate wealth upward while pushing the marginalized further into precarity. It is not just capitalism, it is caste capitalism, a system where land and labor are controlled by a few, where dispossession and displacement remain the fate of the many. This is not an accident, this is engineered, and until it is dismantled, the land will remain a weapon wielded against the people who need it most. And let's look at the farmer protests, caste, and corporate control of agriculture. Modi's farm laws weren't just about free markets. That was a PR spin. The real story, the corporate takeover of agriculture, engineered to strengthen dominant caste control over India's most essential industry, food production. The laws weren't designed to help the average farmer, they were designed to benefit agribusiness giants, corporate intermediaries, the dominant caste landlords, the ones who already control land, supply chains, and market access, the ones who never go hungry no matter how many farmers starve. And who are the big farmers and landlords in Punjab, Haryana, and Western UP, Andhra Pradesh? They're Jats, Reddis, Khamas, Patidars, dominant castes who own vast tracts of land, dictate local economies, and have generational wealth. They have access to bank loans, irrigation, and government subsidies, resources that the landless laborers never see. And who actually does the back-breaking work? Dalits, Bahujans, and Adivasis. The landless farm workers, the ones who wake up before dawn to toil in fields they will never own. The ones who face caste abuse if they dare to demand fair wages. The ones who are often paid in kind, trapped in cycles of debt, and locked out of decision making power in rural economies. Corporate entry into agriculture wouldn't have affected dominant caste landlords in the same way it would have crushed landless Dalits and Adivasis. Big landlords who have found ways to adapt, leveraging contracts, negotiating better deals, and using their caste privilege networks to stay afloat. Meanwhile, Dalit and Bahujan, Bahujan and Adivasi laborers would have faced intensified exploitation, losing whatever meager bargaining power they had in in the informal economy. This wasn't just about capitalism, it was about caste power. Agriculture in India has always been a caste controlled economy. It is not just about who owns the land, but about who decides the wages, who sets the prices, who controls the markets. These farm laws were another step in a long history of ensuring that control remains where it has always been, at the top of the caste pyramid. The farmer protests weren't just about resisting corporate greed. They were about resisting an economic system that weaponizes caste to keep the working class landless, powerless, and expendable. And then they tell you that hard work leads to success, that anyone can rise if they put in the effort, that India rewards merit, not birth. But when you look at who does the back breaking labor and who reaps the rewards, different pictures comes out. Who cleans your streets? Dalits. Who wades through human waste in sewers? Dalits. Who breaks your backs laying bricks in scorching heat? Bahujans and Adivasis. Who picks your food only to go hungry themselves? Marginalized caste farm laborers. Who packs your goods in factories only to be paid a fraction of their worth? Adivasis and Dalits in bond and informal labor. And then who sits in the air conditioned boardrooms making decisions about India's progress? Who controls the tech industry, the corporate sector, the policy making bodies? Brahmins, Banias, and other dominant castes. This is not a coincidence. This is caste capitalism. Capitalism by design needs a permanent underclass, a group that does the most dangerous, back-breaking, and humiliating jobs that is paid the least for it. A group that has no safety net, no generational wealth, no path to escape. In India, caste has ensured that this underclass is not just permanent but hereditary. Manual scavenging is officially banned, but Dalits are still forced into it because no one else will take the job. Construction work is one of the largest employment sectors, but it is mostly Bahujans and Adivasis carrying bricks under dead bondage, while real estate developers, often dominant castes, count their profits. Tech firms and multinational corporations boast about diversity and inclusion, but walk into any software company, any financial institution, any policy making body, and you will find the same caste surnames over and over again. Brahmins and Banias monopolize the top, while Dalits, Bahujans, and Adivasis are kept out through the networks of exclusion. This is how caste and capitalism function together. Caste decides who is disposable. Capitalism extracts their labor and disposes of them when they break. Caste ensures that power stays concentrated at the top. Capitalism provides the language to justify it. Merit, market forces, efficiency. But we know the truth. Merit is just caste in disguise. And capitalism thrives because caste ensures a never ending supply of cheap labor, keeping wealth where it has always been with the oppressors. And then the corporate India loves to talk about merit, about hiring the best talent, about how caste doesn't matter in the modern economy. But let's look at the numbers. Only 3% of CEOs in India's biggest companies are Dalits or Bahujans. Less than 5% of leadership positions in corporate India belong to marginalized castes. The private sector refuses to implement caste based reservations, ensuring that Dalits and Bahujans remain systemically excluded from wealth building opportunities. This is not a coincidence. This is deliberate exclusion marked as meritocracy. And how does the corporate hiring scam works? They just lock out the network. Hiring in India's top companies isn't just about skill, it's about who you know. Promotions aren't just about performance, they're about who vouches for you and who controls these networks. Brahmins, Banyas, and other dominant castes. They refer their own, they hire their own, they mentor their own. The door to corporate success is closed before Dalits, Bahujans, and Adivasis can even knock. Corporations love to cry about merit, but their boardrooms look like a caste census from the 19th century. The same caste surnames dominate the executive suites, the investment firms, the funding committees, Dalits and Bahujans, no matter how qualified, are either invisibilized or dismissed as not fitting the culture. And who defines culture? The same caste elites who have been running the game for generations. And unlike government jobs, the private sector has no caste based reservations. This means that marginalized caste candidates are locked out before they even get a chance to compete. Without affirmative action, the hiring process is dominated by elite institutions, elite networks, and elite biases, all of which overwhelmingly favor the oppressor caste. Startups and entrepreneurships are no different. Who gets venture capital funding? Dominant caste founders. Who gets mentorship and incubator opportunities? Dominant caste founders. Dalits, Bahujans, and Adivasi entrepreneurs are often left without access to funding, networks, or media coverage. If they do succeed, it's despite the system, not because of it. This is caste capitalism at work. Corporate India isn't a meritocracy, it's a gated community where one where dominant caste networks control wealth, access, and opportunity, one where merit is just another word for privilege, one where the private sector protects caste power more fiercely than any temple ever could. Until this system is exposed, dismantled, and restructured, caste will remain the unspoken hiring criteria of every major company in India. And I'm not even going towards the GST and taxation, how the poor pay for the rich. Like GST hits small traders and Dalit run businesses while benefiting big corporations. Essential items like food and clothing are taxed more than luxury items. The government's revenue collection skyrocketed, but where does that money go? To fund tax cuts for the rich. A Dalit street vendor selling vegetables pays more proportionally in taxes than a billionaire using corporate loopholes. That's not an accident. It's the economic policy designed to keep wealth within the same dominant caste. And the media political complex, capitalists control the narrative. Most major media houses are owned and controlled by Brahmins and Banyas. When Dalits fight back, the media calls them violent. When the dominant caste lynch Dalits, the media calls it local tensions. Dalit intellectuals, artists, and activists are erased while the oppressor caste, Savarna gatekeepers define what is progress and what it isn't. The media isn't just bias, it's a corporate caste propaganda factory. India's corporate state is a casteist state. India's economy is not broken, it is working exactly as it was designed to, by and for the ruling caste and corporate elites. And until that changes, inequality will only grow. The billionaires will keep growing richer, the workers will keep struggling, caste barriers will remain firmly in place, and the government will keep telling you it's all for development. So, what is the solution? Dalit and Adivasi assertion, wealth redistribution, reservation in the private sector, land reform, and dismantling corporate control over the economy. You cannot fight capitalism in India without fighting caste. Because in India, capitalism isn't just about money, it's about maintaining Brahminical dominance. And until we destroy that, the working class will always be shackled by caste. Thank you for listening. Have a good day or night. Have a kind evening, day, or night. Bye.